the program I'm representing is active in 15 countries in Southern and East Africa. So with that, I will try to give you a little bit of perspective of the energy sector in the region, or actually on the whole continent, and I try to see whether I can link that to what's actually going to happen in Cape Town in May, and see what activities you can expect, and also how that links to what's actually needed on the continent. Because if I look at the continent, the whole of Africa, we do see a tremendous amount of people that do not have access to electricity or energy. If you look at the figures itself, it's quite amazing, the high numbers you see there. It's 57% of the population in sub-Saharan Africa that doesn't have access to electricity. If you look at clean cooking, the number is 88% that doesn't have access. So there's about 600 million people that don't have electricity, something that I think all of us take for granted that is available. That's something that is very important to take in consideration when you look at the continent and see what is happening and what should happening. Obviously, energy is very important, and I don't have to explain to all of you that energy is a drive for economic development, etc. But it also links to all the goals that the international community has put together. The Sustainable Development Goals, particularly obviously number 7 on provision of clean energy, but certainly also on reduction of poverty, SDG 1, no poverty, looking at SDG 5, looking at the gender issues, and basically all the 17 SDGs are impacted or are facilitated by the availability of energy. If I look at the cooking fuel, for example, traditionally in a lot of African households, cooking is at least with wood. I was about to say three stones, but not necessarily. But a lot of health issues are related to that. So by improving that, a lot of benefits will come. On the other side, we do see electricity being provided to the 100 minus the 55%, to a substantial number of people still, particularly in the urban areas, peri-urban areas, and to a limited extent in the rural areas. In most cases provided by electricity utilities that are, to say the least, not very sustainably managed on financial terms. Most of the utilities on the continent do require some kind of state support to get them through the year, get them running. There are a number of reasons for that. Obviously, as a government, you like to provide energy to your people at an affordable cost. And it might mean that you have to subsidize your electricity and or your utility. But it has a backside. It also means that if you want to be active in energy as a private sector developer, you're fighting against a subsidized product, which makes it very difficult. So if I look at the government then, government like to see people getting affordable access to energy and electricity. Most of the governments have put in goals of providing universal access to the population. Some countries have a sliding scale, like South Africa, they move it every now and then. But all the countries have more or less set a date that they would like to see all their people having access to electricity. Either in 2025, 2030, some are less ambitious, they said 2040, 2050. But honestly, most of them won't be able to reach that. At least not if we continue in the way we're doing business in Africa. In the way that we typically assume that providing electricity to people is extending the national grid and having that line going to each and every house and providing them energy. That is not going to happen anytime soon. It will happen to some people, it will happen to some areas, but definitely not to all the areas. So there is definitely a role for the private sector. The private sector can come in and assist in getting people access to energy. The fund I'm managing is actually particularly looking into that. We do provide, as Eben said, seed funding for small-scale renewable energy and energy efficiency projects in 15 countries in the region. What we do is we provide that small piece of money that is needed to either get your your puzzle together, the different pieces before you really have a project, be it a feasibility study, be it a technical assessment, or being it the negotiations for a PPA, or once you've done that, to have you kickstarting your project, to make sure that you can really start your project implementing in the field, or if you have done that already, we can provide money to scale up or replicate in other areas. We've done that to more than 225 projects already in the last 8 years, and we're currently signing contracts with another 28 projects to the tune of 14 million euro to provide them that needed push to get them that far. I'm actually very glad that we do have a recipient of our funding in the room, and actually representing the EEP Project of the Year Award. Mike, you just show who you are. Mike is representing Vitalite. Vitalite is a project we supported in Zambia, and they pioneered pay-as-you-go solar systems in the country. We ran at one of our own events, very small compared to the Utility Week. We ran an award ceremony where we have provided that recognition to those pioneering projects that really made a difference, and Vitalite did win, I was about to say this year, but actually it's this last year already. Early November, we awarded Vitalite the EEP Project of the Year Award, which actually is not just only an award in recognition of the tremendous effort they put in themselves to get the project up and going, but it will also come, and therefore I'm very glad that we have a very good relationship with Evans and his team, comes with a speaking slot at Africa Utility Week. So from our side, we provide a ticket to Mike and Vitalite to come to Cape Town, while Utility Week people have found a very nice spot on the program where they can showcase the excellent work they're doing. Sorry, it was a sidestep, but that was important for you to show that there is a lot happening on the continent. We run our support through a competitive process, a call for proposals. We did launch our most recent call at the Utility Week in May last year, where we had an event where we had a panel of previous grantees of ours, and we introduced what it actually is that we do support. I was very glad actually at the end of the afternoon that we had, it was not the room, but the technical workshop area overflowing with more people than actually fitted there. That had resulted in 530 applications that we received of people requesting our support. More than we can support, actually, that's a pity. But it does show that there are a lot of entrepreneurs in the areas that we are covering, those 15 countries, that do have the intention to work in renewable energy efficiency, and then in our case have a development impact, and that do need that push. They do need that push from our side before most cases more commercial investors are actually even willing to speak to them, let alone provide financing. And that's also something we have seen, that if we speak to the people we have supported, to those project developers, a lot of them would say the major challenge they have is access to finance. I personally am not convinced that that actually is the problem. I think the problem is access to financiers, the people with the money. So next to other events we organize, we also make sure that we have what they call an investor forum, a matchmaking event where we bring those projects that we have supported, that are ready for the next round of investment, in contact with potential investors. It's like a matchmaking. We put them together in a room, and if they fall in love, they can have some follow-up discussions. And actually, it does work. From previous events, we know that a number of follow-up meetings have taken place, and actually a loan of $3 million has been signed because of this initial contact. And I think that's a very important issue. It is not only that you need to have a good project. You need to meet the people. You need to have an avenue to meet them. And we have seen that Africa Utility Week does bring a lot of those financing people to Cape Town. So we're going to organize actually an investor forum the day before the Utility Week, just to piggyback on what you actually do or bring the people there. if I now look at what we have been funding, what we actually received as 530 applications, but also what is happening in the sector, it's very clear that a lot of different developments are taking place at the moment. On business models being implemented, on technology being used, and actually on the way people work together and organize their projects. Particularly technology development is key in getting affordable access to people. Particularly if you work as a private sector developer, the integration of your solar system with pay-as-you-go mobile payment is key to be able to scale up, to come to that economies of scale that you are able to run your business. Without that, I think a lot of the projects we have supported would not have existed. The next thing we see is energy efficiency. The whole issue of LEDs changed the world tremendously. When my program started in 2010, we had targets of providing funding to a certain number of projects. And with that, we were assumed to reach, I think, 200,000 households with energy and have an installed capacity of something about 3 megawatt. That was based on the typical solar home system of 100 watt peak and 3 CFL lights that you had in those days. It was not based on the 10 or 15 watt peak system and 3 LEDs. So what we eventually achieved is only 1.5 megawatts of installed capacity. But we reached nearly 1 million people because of those technology developments that you see in the sector. So a lot is happening. And I think also that a trade show that comes with the Utility Week helps project developers and developers in the sector to understand what is available there. And that is important also for the other group that I haven't mentioned. That's government. Government officials need also to get exposed to what is happening. We make an effort to liaise with all the departments or ministries of energy in all the 15 countries, just to explain to them what it is that we do, to show them that yes, it is possible. Yes, private sector can do this. And yes, people get energy access. And what we also, the message we also bring across is that private sector can do it faster and cheaper than most utilities can. I'm not sure how many representatives of utilities here, but what we definitely see, if you go deep rural, private sector has an important role to play. But I have to come back to the issue I mentioned before. That's the level playing field. We still see that the projects we support do fight against a subsidized competitor. And there's nothing wrong with subsidies, don't get me wrong. I mean, it is needed. We do have to provide people with affordable energy. And if it doesn't come without a subsidy that is affordable, I don't have a problem with that. Where I have a problem is that we don't provide that same type of support to anyone else provide that energy. If a utility gets a subsidy of $1,000 per connection, why can't private sector get that if they provide the same type of service? So for us, it is also very important to get government to understand that it's not either or. It is certain areas where government can provide through the utility your energy service, your grid extension, etc. But in more rural, remote areas, the private sector might be better suited. Or even in the urban areas, where they can provide a different type of service that people are looking for. If I look at Europe, a lot of people like to get green electricity because they think the environment is important. If you can afford that, that's fine. Why not? So make space, make room for providers that can provide your wind electricity to people that are willing to pay for it. We supported a project in Bronkhorstspruit, the Bio-to-Watt biogas project. They generate electricity, green electricity from manure, from the waste of the cattle around there, supplemented with industrial waste. That green electricity is sold as green electricity to BMW because they have an international mandate or a goal to have the factories run on renewable energy. And actually the i3s can only be produced in a factory running 100% on renewables. So there's an incentive internally for them to do that. So I think it is important that we all understand that it is possible, but we need to make sure that that framework is there. And I like to close with coming back to what I see as the role of Utility Week and now Utility Week and PowerGen. Because I think you have a very important role of bringing the industry together. And I think, and there's a personal opinion, I haven't been paid for do this, but I think you make a concerted effort to consult the sector, much more than what your competitors are doing. I know there's a number of, there was a small number of competitors, they're mushrooming all around. You get a lot of different conferences, and it's always difficult for us also to justify why do you go to this particular one and not go to the other one. But I think you make a concerted effort to engage with the stakeholders and also to be a platform for the stakeholders to engage with each other. And I think that's the beauty about your event, next to it being in Cape Town, obviously. But that's the beauty of your event, that you are able to engage with the sector and make sure that whatever you propose, and I had to, as an advisory board member, I had to look at your program already, so I know you're doing this year around again, that you identify those trends, partly identified or spoke about, but you identify those trends and make sure that you have a program around that. And I would like to urge you to continue with that. Thank you.